There is a plague that haunts the human condition. Many people live their lives in a state of ego, a state of mind where you think you are an isolated being inside your own body, your own world, alone. And this means that you experience yourself as separate from everyone else, disconnected, secluded. And the consequences of this state of mind are obvious. You feel independent and separate from Hashem. And since everyone else in the world is different and separate from you, you'll feel a need to compete with them, to beat them, in order to gain self-worth, in order to convince yourself that you're good enough. And this often means pushing others down just to feel like you're better than them. You might even hate certain people, or even hurt them, since they don't make you feel good, or perhaps because they challenge your own self-worth. But most of all, this state of consciousness leaves you lonely, abandoned, empty. However, there's another option. You can choose to live in a state of soul, a state of oneness. And this means living with the understanding that while we are all unique individuals, at our spiritual and existential root, we are all one. And people often mistaken the concept of oneness as a lack of intellectual integrity, or those who ignore reality. However, those who live by this principle are the select few who are deeply in touch with reality. They are those who understand the underlying truths of the universe, and they live on a plane where the spiritual and physical meet and melt into a oneness. And these people understand that at root, we are all one, an interconnected self, a single consciousness, a single soul. This is the concept of Klal Yisrael, a single self, a single people. The Rambam states that someone who disconnects himself from the Jewish people has no portion in the world to come. But this should be intuitive, because Klal Yisrael is one entity, a single body. If a leaf falls from a tree, it withers. If a finger is detached from its body, it dies. If you remove yourself from your source of existence, you cease to exist. If you're not part of Klal Yisrael, you've disconnected yourself from your source. At root, we are all one. But the problem is pretty clear. It's that most people don't experience this state of oneness. We do not automatically perceive ourselves as part of a cosmic self. In fact, the starting point of every child is ego and selfishness. Research has shown that every child experiences themselves as the center of the universe. They believe that they are all that exists. It is only with time that they come to realize that they are one of the billions of people existing in this world, each with their own unique life experience and unique inner world. However, many people stop their existential and experiential growth at this point. They don't expand further. They don't break down the boundaries of consciousness, realizing that they aren't an isolated being, but are rather part of a bigger whole. They live the rest of their lives as an ego, alone, hollow inside. So the question becomes, how do we break down the walls of our limited ego to expand our sense of self outwards? The key to this deep principle lies in this week's Parsha. In Parsha's Truma, the Parsha is defined by the voluntary gifts that the Jewish people donated to Hashem towards the building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Now, the emphasis in this was its voluntary nature. Hashem did not specify a specific or certain amount that the Jewish people were required to donate. Rather, they had to give of their own accord. They had to choose how much or whether they would give. And the question is, why is this so? Why not specify a required amount, like by machatzis hashekel, like when the Jews had to give half a shekel? To answer this question, we have to look more deeply at the nature of giving. Rav Dessler explains in Michtav Meliyahu in Kuntrus HaChesed that naturally we only love ourselves. I mean, this makes sense. Each of us only experience life from our own perspective. We can only know what I want, what I need, what I feel. How can I ever know what someone else wants, what they need, what they feel? I can't see their thoughts. I can't feel their feelings. It takes a lifetime of work to understand another person at this level. To be as committed to their needs as you are to your own. True love, however, is when someone else becomes an extension of your consciousness. When you feel their needs and hopes and dreams as strongly as you do your own. But the love that most people experience does not compare to this ideal. Just think of the way we throw the word love around. Someone might say, I love chicken. But then also say, I love my wife, I love my husband. How can these two experiences really be compared? You're using the same word love, but they mean two completely different things. When a person says they love chicken, what they really mean is that I love myself, because of course you don't love the chicken. If you love the chicken, it wouldn't be there on your plate. What you mean is that you love the way the chicken makes you feel. It's you yourself that you love, and the problem is that all too often when we speak of love, when we speak of the love we feel for people, we are referring to the same exact kind of love. More often than not, when we say we love someone, what we really mean is we love the way they make us feel. And if this is true, then what's true love? Because this is not true love. How do we create true love? True love is absolute oneness. It's when individual pieces connect in such a way that they create something transcendent, greater than the sum of their parts. The ideal is for man and wife to experience oneness. And this was modeled in the very creation of humanity. As the Midrash explains, Adam and Chava were originally created as one androgynous being, a physical manifestation of a deeper existential oneness. But they were then broken apart and forced to rebuild that original oneness. The ideal and goal is clear, though. Each one of us is meant to become one with our own life's partner. The Gemara in Yevamos actually says that before a man and wife are born, they exist as a single neshama. Only once they are born into the world do they split apart and exist as two distinct beings. The goal is then to wander the world in search of your soulmate, to choose one another, and to then recreate that oneness. Adam and Chava are created as one, but are then split apart. Their original creation as one are a model to the ideal oneness that we are striving towards as husband and wife. But we're then put into this world to create it. At root, we are one. But our natural experience in this world is two-ness and multiplicity. So then how do we create and build an awareness of this oneness? Rav Dessler explains in Michtav Meliyahu that the mechanism for creating love and for creating oneness is giving. And the logic is as follows. We love ourselves. But we also find that parents love their children. Now, why is this? It's because children are an extension of their parents. We love anything that has a piece of ourselves in it because we personify, we personally identify with it. This is why we find ourselves loving our ideas, our pets, and all the creative projects that we spend countless hours working on. When we invest ourselves into something, we see a part of ourselves manifest within it. We naturally fall in love with that thing as a result. It's interesting to observe that parents always love their children more than children love their parents. Why is that? It's because parents give so much of themselves to their children. Beyond just giving over their physical DNA, they give over endless time, energy, money, and care. This is also why the Hebrew word for love is ahava. The root of the word ahava is hav, which means to give, because only when you give can you experience true love, true oneness. Now, the theme of oneness is noticeably prevalent throughout Parshas Truma. Rashi actually quotes the Midrash saying that the menorah wasn't created by connecting many separate pieces of gold together, but rather from a single block of gold. And this idea appears in many other parts of the Mishkan as well. This is because the Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash is where the physical world connects to and fuses with the spiritual world. It is the focal point of where Hashem connects with and becomes manifest in the world. It is the place of oneness where things meet and connect. It is the place where all of Klal Yisrael come together to be one. In the Shalosh Regalim, the 3 times of the year where the Jewish people travel to Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash, to become one. First as a nation, and then with Hashem. The menorah was created as a single block of gold, reflective of a much deeper pattern. Just as the menorah begins as a single block of gold before becoming manifest as branches and pieces, the Jewish people are a single soul at root, and are then expressed as a multitude of individuals. And this is why the donation process, which appears at the opening of this week's Parshas Truma, represents the process of creating oneness and love. The Jewish people had to give of their own volition. They had to choose to donate their possessions to Hashem. This is because love and oneness can only be created and manifest through genuine giving. Hashem gave the Jewish people the opportunity to create a bond of oneness and to love Him. Only by giving yourself to Hashem and recognizing Him as your source of existence can you truly create this bond of love and oneness. And it's therefore no coincidence that these donations were directed towards the building of the Mishkan, the very center of oneness, the place where the Jewish people would connect directly to Hashem, because you can create love in the place of love. So think about your own life. Are you walled in? Are you afraid of being loved? Of loving others? Are you living as an ego or as a soul? Are you expanding outwards, giving yourself to others, or are you isolating yourself, living empty and alone? So let's be inspired to give ourselves to those whom we care about, to build genuine love, and to endlessly expand beyond our limited sense of self into true oneness.